Good afternoon, dear friends. I once again welcome you all to our Zoom platform with another power-packed webinar. After the success of our GNM workshop last month, today we have our key speakers, Dr. Santosh Kumar and Dr. Ehab Makki, who will bring to us an insight about how we can incorporate GNM to benefit us in our clinical practice. I welcome Dr. Ehab to take over the platform.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ritu. Thank you very much. Actually, as we know, I am homeopathic practitioner, and since has been introduced GNM and introduced GNM practice, it makes huge difference in treatment and understand the inner psyche of individual. Today, I'm here to discuss about atopic dermatitis or eczema. I'm going to talk about two portions. The first portions about eczema is not an allergy disease, and the second portion about the eczema and the conflict. Let me first share my screen. It's okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can see. And I would request the other doctors to please keep themselves mute while the speaker is speaking. Thank you so much.
Eczema or atopic dermatitis, it is the most common in our daily practice. And eczema, as we know that is once you diagnose as eczematis, you will be eczematis patient forever. And once they put you in anti-allergic medication or antihistamine, you are going to use that medication forever. And that it shows that is the diagnosis and the treatment either is not matching or still we are not understand what is the roots of problem. Still, we are not understand what is the underlying cause. Because the moment you diagnose eczematis, you will be eczematis forever. So how eczema define? How we can define eczema as per as the academic Americans and National Allergic Institute. Eczema is defined as an inflammatory condition characterized by itchiness. That itchiness make you scratch. Scratch make you itchiness. So more you scratch, more you itch. More you itch, more you scratch. And that form scratch, itch cycle. And eventually it causes rash, and then scaling, and then hyperpigmentation. And the question that, what is the cause? What is the cause of eczema? As per American Academy of Dermatology and the National Institute of Allergy,
Dr. Ehab, sorry to interrupt. Can you make it full screen for your presentation? It's not full screen.
Yeah, actually, but you can see because for me it's simple to understand. What
Okay, okay, fine. That's okay. That's okay.
Let me try full screen, but okay.
Yes,
okay.
That's better. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. So the cause, as per as American Academy of Dermatology, is the result because of immune system. It's the reaction of immune system. So when the allergen get inside, when the chemical get inside the body, when the pollen get inside the body, the immune system overreacts. Whereas in the normal persons, the immune system normally reacts. So eczema is defined as overreaction of immune system as per as American Academy of Dermatology. And the guidelines is to block histamine, that is the cause of inflammation with those drugs. With the results, once you used antihistamine, you'll find the patches, the rash disappear. And once you disconnect it, the symptom reappear again. And therefore, there is no cure. However, there is millions of prescription of antihistamine every day for problem where there is no cure. What is the truth? What is the reality? In order to understand the truth, in order to understand the reality, we need to have a quick revision about anatomy of skin. Skin includes epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. So there is 3 layers: epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. Eczema is the problem with the epidermis. So out of 3 layers, eczema is a problem with the epidermis. Since the problem from epidermis itself is composed of 5 layers. The topmost one is stratium corneum, and then stratium lucidum, and the third stratium granulosum, and then stratium spinosum, and then stratium bacilli. Eczema is a problem with the topmost layer, stratium corneum. So out of skin, eczema is a problem with the epidermis. In epidermis, stratium corneum is the eczema problem of stratium corneum. So our topic today, we are going to focus on stratium corneum. First, stratium. What is the meaning of stratium? Stra means layer. Corneum means horny or tough and strong. This layer made up from dead cell. It is basically dead. Inside the cell, there is specialized protein called keratin. And that makes these cells tough and strong. And this stratium corneum, it is like wall. Will not allow allergen to get in, will not allow fungal to get in, will not allow irritant to get in, will not allow chemical to get in. That is how it's made. So stratium corneum is like wall, it is like army. No matter what you do, nothing it goes inside. We are living in the environment full of dust, full of chemicals. Still we don't have problem because our stratium corneum is tough and strong. Now let us see the first scenario. When the stratium corneum is tough and strong, so the irritants around us, the allergen around us, it is impossible to get inside. And that is the reason you don't have problem with the eczema. And that is the reason you don't have rash, because stratium corneum is strong. The second scenario, if the stratium corneum is weak, where there is hole, or there is crack, or there is ulceration, so allergen can get inside the body. Chemical can get inside the body. Irritant can get inside the body. And the immune system will not keep silent. It has to react. So when the immune system reacts, because there is something get inside the body, that is why the immune system reacts. And that is, it shows the immune system, what is right, it is a normal phenomenon. It is not as they taught us in the books, the problem is the immune system. If someone gets inside your body, you have to react. You have to produce antihistamine, you have to produce IgE antibodies, and that causes inflammation, and because of that, there is rash, but that is normal. So what is the real cause behind it? Is it because of immune system? Is it because of overreaction of immune system? This is normal. Is it because of allergens? We are always blaming the allergens. When you keep the windows open, when you keep your door open, and you find there is dust, it's a problem with the dust, or because you forgot the windows open. It's similar. We cannot blame allergens because the door is open. What is the truth? what is the reality. And reality and the truth, eczema, it is not an allergy problem. It is not because of overreaction of immune systems. It is a problem with the stadium cornea. It is a problem with the wall that is, it is weak. It is dysfunction of skin barriers. It's nothing to do with allergen. It's nothing to do with the overreactions. So what is the cause? Why is stadium weak? Why there is dysfunction of skin barrier? Before 2006, the exact causes, nobody knows why. And always blame the immune system, always blame the allergens. But in 2006, the Professor Makki from Dundee University, Scotland, he identified a specialized protein. And that protein, they call it FILAGGRIN, which is found in the third layer. The third layer, granulosum. And the main function of this protein, first of all, it makes the keratin, I have to do it to show, it makes the keratin, this is the keratin, tough and strong. Remember that stadium corneum made up from dead cell and it composed of a specialized protein called keratin. The toughness of this keratin because of FILAGGRIN. A part of that stadium corneums, there is a specialized factor. They call it natural moisturizing factors that regulate the water within stadium corneum. And because of that, our skin is hydrated. So when we losing water because of exposure to the sun, these factors restore the water path with the help of FILAGGRIN. A part of that is the water, it makes the keratin tight and tough and strong. There is no gap because of the water. So FILAGGRINs play an important role as far as the power and strength of stadium cornea that produced by the third layer, stadium granulosum. That is why our skin is healthy. If there is the second scenario, if there is deficiency of FILAGGRIN protein, so what happened? What is the result? If there is deficiency, first, the keratin, it will be weak. It will not be tough, strong. The keratin of stadium corneum, it will be weak. And the most important that the water that is in stadium corneum is start to leak out. And that is why skin becomes dry. So the water, it will leak out. Keratin, it will be weak, water leak out, and there will be gap between the cell through which allergen can get in, through which chemical can get in, through which allergens can get in. Because there is gap, because there is ulceration. And when it gets inside the body, the immune system will not keep quiet. It has to react. Then it produce large amount of histamine antibodies to fight against the allergen, to fight against the irritants. And when it produces in the large amounts, histamine irritate the nerve ending of the skin. And because of that, you start itchiness. You start feeling of itchiness because histamine irritates the nerve ending and that makes you feel itchiness. And because of that, you start scratching. And more you scratch, more you damage the stadium corneum and more allergen get in And that is why more you scratch, more you itch. More you itch, more you scratch. This is the scenario. So Dr. Makki, he discovered that the scenario of eczema is because of deficiency of filagrin protein that cause dysfunction of stadium corneums. And he found that deficiency only, it causes eczema. Lack or absence of filagrins, it leads to condition called ectosis vulgaris. It is severe form of eczema. You see, there is dryness because there is no filagrin to reserve the waters. And that is why the entire body is eczematous. And this condition is a result because it's totally absent of filagrins. And therefore, eczema, it is not an allergic problem. Eczema, it is a problem with the stadium corneum because of deficiency of filagrins. And that is why once you diagnose eczema and using antihistamine medications, you are going to use that forever because that is not the real causes. We are blaming histamine, but in reality, that causes something else. So what is the cause of filagrin deficiency? I have been asked this question a long time. I'm always asking myself, why there is deficiency of filagrin in eczematous patients? I went to more literature, tried to find out more books. I never get the answer. And the answer always, it is a gene faults. It is a genetic problem. Even if it's gene fault, what is the cause of the gene fault? Till I come across with the GNM and understand that there is link, there is cause behind that. My second portions, and I'm going to discuss about this eczema and GNM later on. Now, as far as the GNM, for those who have no idea about the GNM, is German new medicine, the founder of GNM, Dr. Hammers. And Dr. Hammers, he is the founder of the GNM, and this is the most beautiful science also. He discovered that there is 5 laws. In order to practice even GNM or understand GNM, first you need to understand the 5 laws, the 5 principles. It is not 500, only 5. What he discovered, Dr. Hammer, first of all, each cell, each tissue, each organs controlled by specific neurons in the brain. So there is a specific neuron in the brain control the kidney. There is a specific neuron in the brain controls the genitalia. There is a specific neuron in the brain controls the alveoli of the lung. There is a specific neuron controls the bronchiole and so on. So Dr. Hammers, he discovers that the first biological law, first of all, life is full of problems. It's full of difficulty. It's full of troubles. We are always under stress. Continue from this stress to that stress. He discovers that is the shocking news, unexpected news. And the shocking news is different from person to the person. It may cause you shocking news, for someone else is not. So it depends on the individual perception. But he discovers that is the shocking news. You lost your father. You lost your business. You receive a letter of termination you never expected. He discovered that a moment you receive this shock, it causes injury in the brain, in some neurons. It causes inflammation of the neurons in some part of neuron. It causes lesion. So a moment you receive the shock, that shock, it causes lesions in the brain. And then, as we know that each organ, each tissue is controlled by a specific part of the brain. So it depends on the corresponding area of the brain. If it involves the neurons that control the kidney, you will have kidney problems. If it is involved the neuron that controls the lungs, you will develop lung disease. So it depends in which neurons and what area control it. The second biological law, a moment you receive the conflict, a moment you receive the shock, he found that is a specific area that is involved or neuron in the brain. It will initiate two phases. First, they said conflict, active phases, and healing phases. So a moment you receive the shock, this is a switch on sympathetic nervous system. There is increase of heart rate, your blood pressure, it goes up, and a part of that, there would be vasoconstriction of the blood to peripheral, to the skin. And that is why you'll find the skin is cold. There is coldness in the feet. There is coldness in the hands during active phase. A moment you receive the shock. Insomnia, because the stress hormone is too high. And when normally we get up early morning, the cortisol normally it is too high, and because of that we are active. When time it goes on 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, the cortisol it goes down, and that is why we feel exhausted or tired. And then melatonin hormone it goes up at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we go into sleep. But during active state, the stress hormone is too high. And that is fine, difficult at night to sleep. And then follow this phase, we call it healing phase, where the conflict start to resolve and the parasympathetic nervous system take overs. And because of that, the heart rate goes back normal. The blood pressure goes back normal. The blood supplies the skin. It becomes warm. Sleep is getting better. Dr. Hammer also discovered that is the location of the lesion. In the brain, there is billion and billion of neurons. So when you receive the shock, which neuron involved? Is it a neuron of frontal lobe? Is it a neuron of brainstem? Is it a neuron of occipital? Which neurons? And he found that it's the type of shock, the kind of shock, it determines which neurons involved. If you receive a shock, you lost your business, and you spent huge amount to build your business, and suddenly you receive a call, you lost everything. And he found that this shock involved cerebral cortex, specialized neuron, control the coronary arteries. And this guy, he will develop coronary heart disease, or myocardial infarction. So the location of neuron, it depends on the kind of the shock. Which shock? If you receive shock-induced frightening death or death-frightening shock, that it will involve a specialized neuron in the brainstem that controls the alveoli of the lung. And therefore, this guy is going to have problem with the lung. So the location, it depends on what type of shock. And it is very obvious in the CT scan. And that it makes GNM is scientific. Because a momentary shock, it shows in the CT scan, which is visible. That is why GNM, it is the only science, even in psychiatry, even in psychologists, they could not prove it. But GNM is the first science to explain scientifically. I already spoke about. Now, eczema. Therefore, there is 5 biological laws. The first one, the lesion, when you receive the conflict, and the second one, after you receive the shock, the actions of this shock inside the body, and the third one is very important, is that because each part, now eczema is a problem with the epidermis. Epidermis originated from ectoderm. What is ectoderm? What is the germ cells? Because the psyche and the lesion in the brain affect specialized germ cells. So what is germ cells? To understand this, we have to have quick revision about embryology also to understand the germ cells. Because the concept of GNM depends on formation of germ cells. Now, as far as the germ cells, after fertilization, shortly after fertilization, zygote is formed. And the zygote is a single cell. 24 hours, these zygote multiply into 2. 48 hours multiply into 4. And then 8. And then 3 days after, it multiplies into 16. And so on. And eventually, after 5 days from fertilizations, the cell divided into 2. So after 5 days from fertilization, the cell, there is mass of the cell divided into 2. And this stage, they call it branch 2 cyst. Group, they call it inner cell mass, and that is the future baby. That is the one going to form the organs of future baby or embryo, the inner cells. Whereas the trophoblast is the one that feeding these cells, the future baby. And trophoblast is going to become placenta in future. After 3rd week from fertilization, these inner cells differentiated into 3 layers. And that 3 layers is going to form the entire human beings. They're going to form the organs, they are going to form the muscles, they are going to form the skins from only 3 layers. So after 3 weeks from fertilization, the inner cells, these were differentiated into 3 layers: the ectoderm, the mesoderm, and endoderm. The ectoderm is the one that responsible of make the outer structure, like skin, epidermis, like the orifice, nostrils, like oral cavity, like anal visuals. And the mesoderm responsible makes the ligament and the muscles. And endoderm responsible makes the lining of the organ and the organs. So out of 3 layers, ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, for me is important ectoderm because my topic is epidermis. So ectodermis is the one that responsible of make epidermis. It makes nostrils, it makes the oral cavity and other parts. So when you receive the psyche, that psyche in the brain affects the germ cells. When you say germ cells means ectoderm. And the most important now, as far as the shock that is involved ectoderm, it I will explain later on. First, we need to understand what kind of conflict affect epidermis. What kind of conflict? The most important conflict that it causes problem with epidermis, they call it separation. Separation conflict. And separation conflict, we know that as human beings, we are always attached to each other. You'll find you are attached to your father, you are attached to your mom, you are attached to your kids, you are attached to your husband, you are attached to your wife, you are attached to your job. Any severe separations, your wife run away from you, you separated from your kids, you receive termination from job, this is create detachment and that calling separation conflict. So separation conflict means is related to relations. The conflict that related to relation, you have to remember this. Whether you lost your father, whether you lost your wife, whether you lost your kids, whether you lost your job, whether you lost your business, this is called separation. And when you receive this separation, second question, what part of the brain affect? And I have already explained that the location in the brain, it depends on the type of location. So in case of separation, what type, what part, what neuron involved? Dr. Hammer discovered that the ring, it formed in sensory cortex in the brain. So in case of separation conflict, this conflict, it causes lesion in the brain, it causes injury to the brain, where? In the sensory cortex. And that will control ectoderm. And that will control ectoderm. And that will control epiderm, the outermost layer of skin. You see the connection, it goes so scientific. So when you receive the psyche, that once it causes problem with the epidermis. The psyche, because of separation conflict, it causes lesion in the area that control epidermis and then result in dermatitis. Brain is divided into two. We know that there is right hemisphere and left hemisphere. So there is right sensory cortex and there is left sensory cortex. If the lesion that the ring form in the right sensory cortex, this guy will develop eczema on the left side. If the lesion on the left side of the brain, this guy will develop dermatitis on the right side. Now, the most important you need to understand during the conflict, the epidermis during active conflict, we spoke there is active conflict that triggered sympathetic nervous system, if you remember. And there is healing that when the parasympathetic take over. During the active stage, so what happens? There will be loss of epidermal cells. There will be loss of epidermal cells, like a keratin. And because of that, there will be gap. There will be ulceration. And the skin is dry. And a part of that skin is cold because there is vasoconstriction. So less blood reaches the skin. And during healing process, there will be proliferations. The more skin is formed. We'll discuss this later on. Now, what exactly happens? When I went through GNM, I found that is during active state, when the psyche involves the sensory cortex, this initiates biological program that the skin, the cell of that cause loss of epidermis. And I've tried to find out how, which layers. And eventually, when I study filaggrin, it's not mentioned in the GNM, but I connected that is the shock. It's definitely caused deficiency of filaggrin. That is the psyche part, is definitely caused deficiency of filaggrin protein. And when filaggrin protein is less, so the keratin is weak. And the water, it leaks out, and because of that, the skin is dry. So the effect of the psyche is most likely on filaggrin proteins, because it's the one behind the entire concept. Now, we understand that any dermatitis or eczema is a result because of separation conflict. And now we need to remember, because right side is different than left side. So when the patient presents with the right-sided dermatitis, what kind of separation conflict with whom? Right side present the father, friends, business, husband, wife, business partner, neighbors, relatives. So the right side, it makes you think this patient, he may have separation conflict with those guys, either father, husband, wife. Whereas the left side, when a patient presents before you with left-sided dermatitis, mostly has separation with the close family, the mother, brother, sisters. So to remember, the left side's closed. Who's closed? Father. Who's closed? Brother. Who's closed? Sister. Not wife, not husband. So wife, husband, right side. So this is to make you to remember. Okay. Now, let us see the scenario when there is separation conflict or eczema in newborn baby. How we can analyze this? In newborn baby, a baby who born with eczema, now we understand this is separation conflict. Definitely is not the one who caused. So the problem with the mother. That is why in a patient, in newborn baby, we normally focus on the mom. Why mom have separation conflict? If the mother not happy with pregnancy, she came to know she's pregnant, that pregnancy affect her job, that pregnancy affect her freedom, that pregnancy affect her looks. She's not happy at all with the pregnancy. She's not happy with the child inside her uterus. And these feelings develop. and eventually will destroy the bonding relation, cause detachment between her and her own child. And that feeling is transferred to the child. And this child, he will born with separation conflict from the mom, and the most important, which part? Look and diagnose. That is the beauty of GNM. When a child born with the eczema in umbilicus region, because that is connected the mother to her own baby during pregnancy, and that bonding destroyed, and therefore he born with eczematous rash on umbilicus region. Usually child born with eczema in the cheeks, in the chest, but not in this area. Second, when pregnant woman came to know that her own husband, he might be having an affair with someone else, she's no longer attracted. And that feeling is developed, is strong, and eventually cause separation. It destroys the bonding that her husband's, he have affair with someone else. There is something going behind. So during pregnancy, her child born with separation conflict on his back. There is rash on his back. Continuous ultrasound. During pregnancy, the fetus connected to the mother through heart. Apart from that is the sound of her heart always there. Continuous ultrasounds, it caused all the separation conflicts. I've tried to understand why, I couldn't understand why. But the child born with eczematous patch on the ear, external ear. In a woman who are not happy during pregnancy because there's no care. She might not getting care because of her husband. She's not getting care because of her mother-in-law or sister-in-law during pregnancy. There is ignorance. She develops also separation conflict, and a child may born with any type of rash. We have seen in newborn. Let us see in children why there is eczema as far as the concept of GNM. Now, in children, if the child born normally, there is no eczema in the past, and suddenly develop eczema. One of the most important cause, if the child lost his father, or if the child lost his mother, or if the child separates from his father, or if the child separates from his mom, that also cause separation. And it depends. If dermatitis on the right side, if from father, you'll find dermatitis on the right side. If from mother, you'll find dermatitis on left side. This is the most common problems. When second child arrives, and you find that is the first one, there is ignorance. The family are very busy with the new one, and they ignore the first one. And this child will develop second child syndrome. They also develop separation conflict, and that lead to eczema. That is the question what we are going to ask. This is the most common. Fighting parents always involved in fightings, and this child also ignore and will develop separation conflict in the form of eczema. Let us see the scenario in case of a woman after married. This one, she developed eczematous rash on right arms after married. She has no history of eczema during childhood. She has no history of eczema during teenager. She developed this problem after she got married. Since there is eczema, that means there is rash. And since there is rash, that means there is separation. With whom separation? Definitely it's not with her father. Where is his right side? Right side including father, friends. So mostly it might be husband, because she developed this problem after marriage. What is the cause? So to remind you, right-sided include father, friends, husband, wife, neighbors, relatives. You have to remember, we have to mug up this one. What is the cause? If she came to know she married wrong guy, always there is conflict, always there is problem. Simple problem, he make it big problems. And eventually, it will tear up the connection, the bonding relations destroyed. And she developed separations, conflict, and which it may show in the left sensory cortex. She married the wrong guy. And eventually, she developed separation. And that is why now she presents before you with the rash on the right hand or the right side. What is other example of separation conflict in case of post-married woman? She presents before you with the rash on her back. And make sure that she have no problem before. There is no eczema, there is no history of eczema during childhood. For first time, she develops this after marriage. So what happened in her back? This is mostly happens when she came to know her husband is deceptive. He was not honest. Whatever he told before marriage, it was just liars, cheating her. And that is affect the bonding relations, because she came to know she's married deceptive husbands. And that destroys the bonding, and eventually she develops separation, conflict, and that is present in her back. Now, she presents before you with the medial aspect rash of skin. It could be in the side, it could be in the arms, it could be in the forearms. What is the meaning of rash in the medial aspect? We know that this separation, but with whom? What kind of separation? When there is separation against her desire, she loves him, but unfortunately, he selected another woman, or he divorced her. There is separations against her wish. She's trying to work hard to keep the relation, but separation took place from his side. She wants him. And therefore, she developed rash on the medial aspect. If the rash on the lateral aspect, we have seen that when the rash in the medial, there is separation against her desire. But now she presents before you rash on the lateral aspect. There is separation. What is the cause on the lateral? She came to know is not the right person. She doesn't like him, and she wants to get rid of him. She wants to divorce, but because of tradition, because of social, she has to stay with him against her wish. And that is why she developed eczematis on the lateral side. From here, what we understand? If it's medially, there is separation conflict against her desire. If it is lateral, she wants the separation but find difficult to get rid of it. If a woman sexually not satisfied, majority of women, even if sexually not satisfied, it may not make difference for them. They may not even care. It will not cause any separation for them. But there is some women, this is very important. If she is not, the bonding relation between her and her husband will destroy. She will not accept him. And this when she also developed separation conflicts, and because of husband, it will be in the right side. And because she wants to get rid of him, it will be in the lateral aspect. Look and diagnose is very important in the GNM. We have seen a newborn child, the umbilicus regions. That is when the mom, she's not happy with pregnancy. When in her back, when her husband might be having external affair, this because of ultrasound, and this because she was not taking no one care of her during pregnancy. This in children when he or she lost father or mother, and this is a second child syndrome. And similar to this, we have already gone through this one. Thank you very much, friends. Again, thank you very much. And I will ask my friend, Dr. Santosh, to continue. And before that, I would like to also thank Dr. Farouk Mutwala, who opened our mind for GNM. And also I would like to thank my friend, Dr. Santosh, because he's the one that is for years asked us to involve in GNM. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ehab, for a wonderful session. I think you've summed up one-day workshop, which we did that day in just 1 hour. I think it was excellent. Really. I mean, you've crossed all other doctors who presented. It's really good. It's really good. And it really shows the hard work that you have put in preparing this presentation. I think it was really good.